We have decided to prohibit sprawl into the outlying area.
This year, our relationship with the Chamber of Commerce grew even stronger.
What we want to do is try to maintain what makes Northern California so special.
Glue that allows us to function together as a community. And one of the great pleasures
also a community of well-educated residents that value education.
It's my honor to introduce our mayor, John Bautista. John was elected to the Cupertino City Council in November of 1993. He is a local boy. He grew up in Cupertino and currently lives in Cupertino with his wife, Marilyn. John earned his Bachelor of Arts degree in Economics and International Studies from UCLA and spent a year in France studying international law. He speaks French fluently. And I was assured that he would not give a speech in French today, though. He obtained a law degree from the Harvard Law School and is now an attorney with Venture Law Group in Menlo Park, where he specializes in representing Silicon Valley startup companies. In his free time, John pursues his love of music, in particular playing classical piano and spending time with his family. Let's honor the Honorable Mayor Bautista. John, can you come forward?
Thank you, Tom. It is indeed a pleasure to speak to you this afternoon regarding the state of the city. I would like to thank President Hall and the Chamber for sponsoring this event. I would also like to take a couple of moments to introduce my fellow council members who are here this afternoon. Councilmember Don Burnett, could you please stand? Wally Dean, saw you earlier. Michael Chang. And Vice Mayor Laura Lee Sorensen. Laura Lee asked me earlier, are you nervous? And I said yes. And she said, we'll just act as if you're trying a case in front of a council of judges. And I told Laura Lee that I think I'll feel more at ease with this crowd. And I see so many friendly faces, and I'm sure I will. I would also like to introduce my lovely wife, Marilyn. And it's such a lovely day out today. I apologize that we've had to close the windows, but we've put on a high-tech presentation, and thanks to Don Brown and the city staff, we've got a slideshow here, so we'll see how it goes with these shades as they are. Cupertino stands for Excellence in Business, Education, and Environment. And what I mean by that is we have numerous high-tech companies that are world-renowned for their high-tech business. Cupertino also is known for its variety of other businesses, small companies, and in particular the retail companies in the city. All of these companies have one thing in common in my mind, and that is that they're active contributors to the city. Apple Computer, for example, in its work with the schools, Hewlett-Packard and Tandem in sponsoring civic events, and the restaurants who provide food for our special events, etc. And all these cities, all these companies work together to provide an incredible contribution to the city. We also stand for excellence in education. It's not a myth, but it's a reality that people move to Cupertino for our schools. And we have to thank our teachers and educators and administrators and most of our parents for making that happen. We also stand for excellence in environment. Cupertino is a high-quality place to live, and it attracts both businesses and future residents to the city. I'd like to briefly introduce and reintroduce you to Cupertino. I view Cupertino as having these essential elements, among others. As I mentioned, leading-edge businesses, well-educated residences, a diverse community organizations, quality government services, and quality environment. And I view city government as playing an essential role in this community by facilitating communication among each of these elements of our city. In city government, we work for the 43,000 citizens of Cupertino, and that is the city council. There are 5 council members. In addition, there are 42 citizens that participate in citizen advisory commissions and committees. City staff is comprised of approximately 123 full-time positions. What's remarkable about this slide is the number of citizens involved in city government. Virtually 1 in 4 persons who have activities almost on a day-to-day basis at the city are residents. And I think this contributes to the responsiveness of city government and the uniqueness of Cupertino. Cupertino, as I mentioned earlier, is comprised of a variety of diverse community organizations. There are nearly 100, and this is only a partial list. Among them are business organizations, educational organizations, professional organizations, cultural, recreational organizations, service, and youth organizations. So I think this is a remarkable list that displays the level of commitment and participation among residents, businesses, and others in the community, and for the benefit of the community. We are also a community of well-educated residents that value education. Our population is approximately 44,000, and nearly half of the citizens in the city are school-age children. We have a very low unemployment rate. Our average annual income is about $80,000, and the average age of residents is 36. I'd like to point out that over half of the residents in the city hold a college or professional degree. These are our leading edge businesses. Again, this is a partial list, but you are all familiar with these companies, most of which are high-tech computer software and hardware companies and medical device companies. I've put this list together because I think it's important to show where the jobs are. And the vast majority of jobs are in these companies that are at the top of the list. There is also a significant level of employment among non-manufacturing and primarily in the school system between the Cupertino Union School District, Foothill De Anza Community College District, and the Fremont Union School District. So it's an interesting parallel between what I view as the essential elements in the community: high-tech leading-edge businesses, excellence in education, and what people are doing in the city and how they are involved in the city and the numbers that are involved in these activities. Our quality government services include the Sheriff's Department, Fire District, as I mentioned earlier, the school districts and De Anza College, Mid-Peninsula Open Space District, Water District, and the Sanitary District. We have a high-quality environment that focuses on quality of life, and I believe that essential to that is an emphasis on parks and recreational facilities. There is 150 acres of traditional parks in the city, which amounts to a ratio of 4.4 acres per every 100 residents, which is among the highest ratio in the county. In addition, just recently we've completed our retrofitting of the school fields, which adds an additional 50 acres on school grounds, and we consider that to be additional open space, but it's not in the 150 acre number. Cupertino also provides access, because of its location, to various open space districts. The Mid-Penn Open District, which is 3,000 acres, and all of these are accessible and border the city, and the Santa Clara County Parks Department's Stevens Creek Park and Rancho San Antonio. Other facilities that are noteworthy and unique to this city: McClellan Ranch Park, Memorial Park, our library, the Quinlan Center. This room I was mentioning earlier to Daryl Stoll. I mean, we were talking earlier about how it seems that most events occur in this room, and it's because this is a fantastic facility, and it's also appropriately called the Cupertino Room. Our senior center, the sports center, and Blackberry Farm. I view our mission as a city government to foster communication and participation among these various elements so that we can work together to attain our common goals and achieve uncommon results. I'd like to go into what we view these common goals to be. They are fostering a sense of community, maintaining our high quality of life, protecting public safety, enhancing city services, and ensuring the financial health of the community. I'd like to take a moment to talk about how we develop these goals. Each of the council members we met together in a session and worked to develop what we think are the long-term standing goals of the community. And I think these goals are important because these goals are long-term goals. And in order for city government to work well, we need a very well-defined set of objectives in order to meet each of these goals. And I think we've got that. I believe that progress is made in small steps. And by clearly having an identifiable set of goals, I think we can meet each of those objectives. And what I'd like to do now is turn over to what we've achieved. By having these defined set of objectives, I think we can achieve uncommon results. In the area of fostering a sense of community, what we've achieved is reinstating the 4th of July celebration through participation in the community. $33,000 was raised last year, and the city has contributed $15,000, committed $15,000 for the effort this year. And the second point is election reform. We've just decided to put on the ballot an initiative to limit council members' terms to 2 years, and we'll be asking for the citizens in the city to act on that. In addition to ballot reform, the Planning Commission is looking at ways to restrict political signs so we can once and for all get rid of what I call political graffiti in the city. Our future goals include additional campaign reform, which are limits on contributions, voluntary limits on spending, in order to ensure that in this community we can encourage as many citizens to run for public office. I think that's important for the community. We are working to address youth issues, and there's a committee that's working very hard at coming up with recommendations in that area. Through our town hall meeting, which occurred in the fall, we heard from the community that it is important to celebrate cultural richness, and the council is programming various activities in which we can celebrate the diversity in the community. Part of this is to sponsor a leadership training and communication session. The idea here is we want to identify civic leaders such as yourself to provide means by which we can train leaders to communicate and among various groups in the community, not only to celebrate our diversity, but also to address other issues such as public safety issues. Our second set of goals are maintaining our high quality of life. So far, we've achieved a commitment from the diocese to contribute 138 out of their 203 acres to open space. This amounts to 66% of that property as public open space. In addition to that, an additional 9% of that property will be private open space. So in the end, 3/4 of the property will be a form of open space, private and public open space. We've adopted a hillside preservation ordinance, which puts into place standards regarding ridge line development, architectural standards, landscaping, colors used in the hillsides. So that will eliminate our pink elephants that we've seen in the past. Goals include providing more affordable housing. We've put in place a fee of $2 per square foot for new industrial development to provide affordable housing in the city. We've recently seen the completion of 40 units on Stevens Creek, the Swenson project, which is affordable housing. And as always, we've got the requirement that for new multifamily housing, 10% of that must be affordable. The Planning Commission and the Council are looking at limiting further limitations on building heights and setbacks, particularly in the Stevens Creek area, to preserve our quality of life. And we are also looking at reducing Tier 2 development potential, which is in addition to the floor area ratios that we've allocated in the general plan. Third category is protecting public safety. We've achieved a decrease in graffiti. We've put in place a 48-hour response hotline, and the city will work hard to eliminate graffiti within 48 hours of the time it's reported, and we encourage you to report any graffiti that you do see. Word has it that we've found 3 taggers so far with this new program in place. We've put in place a curfew ordinance. If you're 18 years or younger in the city, you need to be home by 10 o'clock at night, unless it's a Friday or Saturday night, in which case it's 12 midnight. We've also put in place a non-smoking ordinance, which applies in all public spaces, including restaurants, and except for standalone bars. We've adopted tougher roofing standards. For retrofitting existing roofs, we've now moved from a Class C standard to a Class B standard, which will substantially decrease the flammability of roofs. And this issue was brought to us by the fire district, and I want to thank them for pursuing this issue. For new homes and homes in the hillsides, the roofing standard will be at a Class A. Soon to be in place is a walk-in Sheriff's Service Center at City Hall during the working hours of 8 to 5 every day at City Hall. We've expanded the radar system and helped fund additional radar for the sheriff to ensure that every patrol in the city has a radar system. So watch your speedometers. We've trained over 100 residents in emergency response. We've also trained 100 or so staff members in CPR and first aid. Future goals include reinvigorating the neighborhood outreach program. We've got a state law grant of $60,000 that we're directing in this area. We're implementing a crime data system which will provide direct access from City Hall to the Sheriff's West Side Station, providing crime data information. We've been working with Kaiser to reduce the dust on Stevens Creek and Foothill. Kaiser is washing their trucks and also has a street cleaner called Kirby that is, Wally wanted to call it Super Suck, but we wish they had called it Super Suck. That's the only criticism I've got about this. And then we are also in contact with Kaiser regarding the potential change in, or the study for tire burning up there. So far, as you know, it's been they've only conducted a study, but the council is very much in touch with them. My view of this is that we need to work together to find ways to reduce emissions over time. We are working to increase bicycle safety and primarily completing bike lanes on Stevens Creek Boulevard and working with the businesses that require off-street parking to ensure that this does not interrupt with their business. On the other, I want to go back one slide. Yes, installing share the road bike signs. I mentioned this earlier, but the city will be putting in place 15 signs around the city in locations to alert motorists to the fact that besides themselves, there are also bicyclists and pedestrians on the road. And for new developments, we are increasing the requirement for bike parking. In the area of enhancing city services, this year's budget includes a $50,000 increase for median maintenance, and we've also hired one additional city employee for median maintenance. We will complete in December Creekside Park, which is 12 acres, a beautiful park on the east side of the city off of Miller, which will provide needed park space for that area of the city. We have effectively turned the sports center around through the efforts of the Park and Recreation Department, and they're taking ownership of this, and now I'm happy to proclaim that we have nearly 800 pass holders for the sports center, and it's operating on a break or positive cash basis. We've improved the facilities at Blackberry Farm and have invested approximately $1 million from cash generated from the Blackberry Farm operations, and this past summer retrofitted the pools at Blackberry Farm. We've extended library hours by an additional 6 hours in addition to the 17 hours that were extended as a result of the passage of Measure A. And we've also extended City Hall hours by 1 hour every day. City Hall is now open from 7:30 in the morning until 5:30, and through the development of a flexible time schedule for city employees. Future goals include building a new or expanded library, and the Library Commission is now studying the usage of the library and will be making recommendations to the City Council regarding this. And similarly, expanding the Senior Center. Parks and Recreation Commission is looking at usage there and will be making recommendations. We are in the process of implementing a new technology plan and have a fantastic MIS department that has made recommendations to the city to put in place, believe it or not, a centralized a network that will connect all city facilities to a centralized server so we can share information among facilities. Also included is a geographic information system where every parcel in the city and the data related to that will be easily accessible to the staff and a certain amount of that data to residents on a walk-in basis so they can get information about their parcel. I'd like to turn to the issue of ensuring financial health of the community and to talk about where we have been from a fiscal point of view and where we expect to go from a fiscal point of view. This chart illustrates that our total revenues for the general fund is about $22.5 million, and it shows that about 30% of that is dependent on sales and use taxes. It also shows that our expenditures are around $22 million, and they're pretty evenly divided among the various departments, Public Works being the largest department, capital outlays and improvements being a significant number, and then debt service on our outstanding bonds. Our annual revenues and expenditures have more or less stayed the same over time. We're expecting a slight decrease in the next fiscal year, and as you'll note, expenditures are pretty much even over time. This chart shows revenues and expenditures plus debt service, and also shows that over time we've stayed relatively even. We're expecting to be break even here in the 97-98 time frame, and this is an anomaly. We did some bond refinancing, but I think the message that I want to convey is that we are operating on a break-even basis with respect to revenues and expenditures, including debt service. Annual sales and use tax revenues are more or less flat in real dollar terms. When you factor in adjustments for inflation, there's a slight decrease in sales tax revenues. And this is important to illustrate because since nearly 30% of our budget is dependent on sales tax, this is a trend that is not very comfortable. So we need to find ways to reverse this trend. We maintain a policy of ensuring that we have reserves on hand that will cover 75% of our operations plus debt service. And we've achieved that goal or that policy level. We have a goal level of being at 100%, but our reserves, as you will note, are above our policy level. Of course, every city would like to have more money in the bank to fund capital improvements, and this is essentially a snapshot of our bank account. I wanted to show the community that the various funds that we have in terms of water, resource recovery, Blackberry Farm, the sports center, the rec center, and the senior center are all break even. In fact, they're generating cash. And I think this is tremendous for a city to have these sorts of resources. It also means that these facilities are well used. For example, the sports center has pass holders. They pay fees depending on whether they're monthly pass holders or quarterly pass holders or annual pass holders. But residents and others are paying for these facilities at market rates, and we're running these businesses essentially at a cash positive basis so that we can in turn improve those facilities out of the cash generated from them. In the area of ensuring the financial health of the community, what we've achieved is we've expanded our audit committee to include a chamber representative and an outside expert to participate in the committee. We've paid off our youth sports field debt of $1 million, paid off 2 years early. We've increased park dedication fees for new apartment projects in order to recoup park costs. So far, we've spent about $20 million on park improvements and park acquisition. And we've recouped about $11 million from these fees. So our hope is to recoup an additional $11 million so that we've recouped all those costs. Sorry, an additional $9 million. We've established an economic development plan, which was the result of an economic summit we had last spring, and put in place a committee that meets twice per month at City Hall and includes representatives of the chamber. Future goals include, as I mentioned, recouping park costs, maintaining city revenues, decreasing our dependence on sales tax revenue, what we've also achieved in the area of economic development is we've adopted a sign ordinance which will make it easier for businesses to post signs for special events. We've adopted a commercial ordinance which is streamlined and also provides the ability to actually not need to go down to City Hall for particular uses. There's actually some uses that don't require a use permit in our new commercial ordinance. We've implemented permit streamlining. It's possible now to get building permits over the counter, or for minor permits, a 5-day turnaround, and major permits, a 10-day turnaround. We've retained Symantec, and we're very proud of that we've been able to retain a high-tech company in the city. And they will be building a new building on De Anza Boulevard. We've retained Whole Foods. Whole Foods, in my mind, exemplifies our quality of life as an important contributor to the community as well. And we're able to get them in their existing space in record time, in new space in record time. And we're in the process of implementing the Stevens Creek Boulevard plan. And by this spring, we will have planted 500 trees along Stevens Creek Boulevard. We've done that. Most of the trees will be planted in the medians. And I think that that approach will work. And we've worked with the chamber and businesses to ensure that their line of sight in terms of being able to market their businesses to the boulevard is retained. And we've approved a master plan for Hewlett-Packard that gives Hewlett-Packard assurances about how they can expand in the city over the next 15 years, and allows for some 340,000 square feet of additional office space on their existing site. Future goals include attracting sales tax producers to the city. I view our financial health in sort of a two-pronged approach. One is finding ways to enhance existing sales taxes, and secondly, which is the next point, attracting one or more hotels. In other words, diversifying our revenue base. And it's amazing. One hotel, for example, a 160-room hotel, can generate up to $400,000 to $500,000 per year in revenues to the city. And we're in the process and are in discussions now to put in place 2 hotels. We are working with the owners of Alco Park to reinvigorate that center and making suggestions about increasing signage, for example, along 280 for Sears and JCPenney's. We're doing just about everything we can to reinvigorate Valco Park. We make it a goal to communicate regularly with the business community, and this is primarily done through the economic development team, and I think it's a goal for the city. We are also marketing our economic development. We'll be putting in place a brochure to use for prospective new businesses in the city. And this March, we're going to launch our city website, which will help market the city and provide links to City Hall, the library, sheriff, fire, and other governmental services. As I mentioned earlier, I think one thing that's unique about Cupertino is that we stand for and have achieved excellence in business, education, and the environment, and it's through your efforts and your participation that this has happened. I'd like to mention that future events where we will be seeking your continued participation are, as I mentioned earlier, leadership training that the city will be sponsoring February 28th and March 1. It's a 2-day seminar. We will also be planning an additional economic development summit to get feedback from the business community about what we've achieved and what we still need to achieve in the spring. The Senior Center expansion study, we expect that we'll be seeking public input this summer. In the library, we haven't yet determined when that will occur, but we will also be seeking public input at that point in time. I'd like to wrap up by thanking you for your active contribution to the city and participation. I think Cupertino is a unique city that stands for excellence in business, education, and environment, and it's indeed a pleasure to serve this year as your mayor, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you.